You're listening to the Prevention is Cure podcast. Welcome to the Prevention is Cure podcast with me, Prof. Schofield.
And Kayla Lenfernadelamotte.
The Pre-Cure R&D team. It's a blockbuster episode today, Kayla, calling it the Mismatch episode.
Yeah.
There are a few mismatch topics, but it's also about mismatch. So we're going to talk about mismatch theory in evolutionary biology, and there's some nuances to that. The second topic in that is really around what's happening with AI now, both in society, but also in our own work.
Yep.
So sort of an AI thing. And lastly, completely off the side, is for some reason we're getting asked a lot about peptides.
Yeah. It's
So-
a really common topic at the moment. We're hearing, obviously, with the wave of GLP-1s like Wegovy, but then also with other sort of unregulated peptides that are being used from a consumer perspective.
Yeah, the ones particularly for joint and tissue repair.
Yep.
So we'll give you our view of where we're at the end as well. So let's get into the three different segments. What are we starting with?
Yeah, I would start with a question. So, you know, you were talking there about the mismatch theory, and every time the world has changed, and it's changed lots of times since humans have been on the planet, right? Farming, factories, the internet, smartphones, and now AI. There have been some unintended consequences with our health, with our metabolic health. Can you just walk us through those sort of stages of change and the implications that have happened?
Okay, great question. Before we do that,
Yeah.
the reason we're interested in this in pre-cure, prevention is cure, and the sort of metabolic things that Kayla was asking about there, is that humans, and we've talked about this in previous podcasts, human metabolism,
Yeah.
our ability to maintain a stable body temperature and glucose and insulin and all of the other hormones and neurotransmitters and everything that make us up is really tightly controlled.
Yes.
And we're extraordinarily good as an individual human and as a species in a massive range of conditions, from African savanna, sort of hot conditions, through to the Arctic, altitude, sea level, diving down in the sea and catching food, all sorts of food, from nothing but fat and meat to nothing but veggies. We can do that.
So we're adaptable and robust, and it makes you think, right, that then how have we ended up in this space with such rampant chronic disease? We've had to really push the envelope of the system, right?
Yeah, so 9 out of 10 adults and probably 1 out of 3 not quite adults yet, adolescents, have disrupted metabolic health. We can't bring our system back to normal no matter what we do. And the reason for that is the reason we're going to talk about these mismatches, because the sort of world that we evolved in pre-agriculture looks nothing like the world we're in now. So that's not new news to anyone, I suppose. But the question is, how's this incrementally happened?
Yeah.
And so let's get into that now. And I want to start with this agricultural revolution. So prior to this, humans were hunting and gathering predominantly, and doing this mainly through a thing called persistence hunting.
Yeah.
And this is our advantage in being able to track down large furry animals and eat them, was that we worked in groups. And so there's a few characteristics you need to do. You need to be hardwired for a couple of things, which are interesting.
Yeah.
The first is these mirror neurons. So when you feel some pain, I also feel some pain. And when you feel some happiness, I also feel some happiness. Obviously not quite the same, but we're hardwired for that.
For connection.
Yeah. And other animals aren't. Dogs are.
Yeah.
And dogs with us are.
And primates? Would primates fall into that category? Hardwired for connection? No. Oh, interesting.
No, so it's an interesting thing, right?
Yeah.
So we're hardwired to be able to work in cooperative social groups. So that's an interesting thing. And we're also mainly hairless. Well, it depends on the human.
So, some humans are less of that.
Yeah. And we can walk upright and run.
Yes.
And that allows us to be able to endurance run quite well, which is the basis of persistence hunting.
Yeah.
And so you can basically outrun what do you call those sort of African antelope type things?
Yeah, like a
gazelle.
Gazelle. You can outrun a gazelle or a buffalo. Or...
Yeah, well, it'll outrun you in the short term, but because it can only cool down through evaporative cooling from its tongue, and you can use your whole body, it's eventually going to get overcome by heat exhaustion.
Yes, whereas humans are much better at cooling through sweat, right?
Yeah, it's still hard on us.
Yeah.
So those are a way that we lived. Calorie-dense animals, we pre-digested the food, we could cook it, extract maximum calories, allows us to carry much less heavy digestive apparatus, and that's all a good thing, right? So that's a human condition. Smallish social groups, movements built into your life, so is rest. The food supply is what you could get a hold of. Trouble is, we eventually thought of other ways of doing this. Because there is a problem with this way of living.
Well, it's scarcity based, right? When things are there, they're there, and when they're not, they're really not.
So food security was an issue, I suppose. And one way, if you're a creature that finally became able to overcome its environment and engineer it, is that someone, or probably independently or across the world, because we did corn and maize in South America, they did rice in Asia, they did
wheat in the States.
Wheat and farming in Europe.
Potatoes in Ireland?
I suppose,
Like different
crops. So if you go, well, there probably weren't people in Ireland, let's face it, 10,000 years ago, but emerging from an ice age type situation, if this was the agricultural revolution. And so here's the thing. You've now, in communities that are more permanent, that has its advantages. You have a more stable social structure. It's probably interesting. But most of all, you've got a more stable food supply, and you can save food up, non-perishable food or less perishable food, for times of scarcity. It's had an enormous advantage for one thing, is that human birth rate didn't change. Oh no, birth rate went up slightly because you could wean kids off breastfeeding
and onto
soft palatable foods more quickly, and that enabled birth rate to go up. It only has to go up a little bit, and it becomes exponential, which it did. It's going the other way now, of course, but so that was the big plus of the agricultural revolution: stable food supply, increased birth rate, species population goes exponential.
What were the minuses?
Well, now you're living in confined environments, and now there's a contagious disease situation. So human life expectancy actually halved.
Oh, wow.
We shrunk in stature from more available but less nutritious food.
Yes.
So that was between 5 and 7 inches, but most of that has come back in recent times. But much more astonishing, I have no idea what this means, human cranial capacity, our brain volume, decreased from 1,500 cubic centimetres to 1,200 cubic centimetres, and it hasn't unshrunk since then. I don't know.
That's really interesting.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Because remember, Neanderthals had even bigger brains than that, and they went extinct.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what the advantage of that was, if there was any.
Yeah. I suppose the other thing is it kind of set up a societal implication of who owns the grain, sort of has some power as well. So there were some new power dynamics emerging as part of the agricultural revolution.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. So now you've got servitude and slavery and serfdom. Yeah. And you've got those up higher on the social ladder that eventually became the kings and the queens. And
so while we were in these more stable groups, there was now power and hierarchy that was probably a little bit more subtle in hunter-gatherer times, and now became quite formalised.
Yeah. So, but it just illustrates that there's one big advantage to the human species, but there was actually some significant costs as well.
Yeah.
And that, I think it peaked at its all-time low of human life expectancy in the UK in the 1600s. The life expectancy there was 18.3.
Wow.
But think bubonic plague, i.e. the Black Death.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
So then the next sort of thing that comes along is the technological revolution.
Well, the industrial
revolution. Now we can go and we can work in factories. We're earning a wage to purchase food. Food's made in all sorts of different ways now. What were the implications of that?
Well, Charles Dickens' novel, The Tale of Two Cities, that describes the opening lines. I'm not going to recite them all, but it's the best of times, it's the worst of times. So you had this astonishing change in society. We moved away from that power dynamic and serfdom and rural confined agriculture that had defined the previous several thousand years. And now you're into an industrial meritocracy. So
sort of a meritocracy.
Well, industrialists without land could make their riches.
Yes, yeah.
And now we're able to start to manufacture things at scale. And so when you can start to manufacture things at scale, which took a couple of hundred years to eventuate to what then became, I suppose, the mechanical revolution. Is there such a thing as a mechanical revolution that surpasses the industrial revolution? I'm talking about now cars.
Yeah, the automation of the cars and
machinery, refrigeration.
Microwaves and the space age and what that did from a nutrition perspective is also really interesting.
Yeah, so it's the latter part of that revolution, the mechanical one, particularly World War II onwards. I think with the car, the television, and then the information age and the internet that drove us into not having to physically work as hard as we can, and also the idea of industrially processed food, which was shelf-stable or refrigerated, and then could be engineered to be tasty.
Yeah.
Now this is the conditions that created the mismatch of our metabolism, that you don't have to do any physical work anymore, and food is constantly available. Not only is it constantly available, it's been specifically engineered to hijack the reward system in perverse ways.
Yeah, and I suppose it was also the automation of a lot of housework that women would have particularly done. So you get washing machines and dishwashers, and all of that was able to push women into the workforce, which was a great thing. But then women and men were both working, and so we would rely more on things like the television dinner, right? Because both parents are coming home after a long day and there's not as much time available, and so it was all this convenience baked into what we did.
That's isn't it the perversity of the dual working family, do you reckon? I might get in trouble for this. So,
Go on.
Well, you've got a situation now where both people can work because it's possible to do that. They go ahead and do that, and presumably there must have been a short time where there was way more income than there were things to spend it on. Yeah. But of course the whole economy adjusts to that. Now you need to have both of you working to even start to think about affording and surviving the basics. So it's it promised more income and more freedom. It gave exactly the opposite.
Yes.
So we released and liberated women, particularly from this confinement to household duties, and that was a great thing. So it gave that on one hand. On the other hand, it's now like you haven't got any option. You have to do this.
Yeah, and I think that's so interesting for young families and young mums, and the questions it raises around childcare and the affordability of childcare, those first 1,000 days, and wanting to be close to your child but not being able to do that. So I think while there are metabolic consequences, there's also just broader societal consequences of each of these revolutions. Yeah,
so at the end of the day, probably the 250 years that made up the Industrial Revolution, which I suppose is still going on in many ways, has been a metabolic mismatch in food, movement and work. We had to really invent fitness as a word, I suppose, and exercise as a post-World War II concept, because for the most of human history, we actually just needed a rest.
Yeah.
Like too much physical work was a thing.
Yes.
I should say that was the other thing I wanted to mention about the agricultural revolution that I forgot.
Yeah.
So that's a huge mismatch there, is now you're bending over in fields doing stuff, and our back's just not designed for that.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's a brutal outcome. Nor is it designed for sitting around either, which is a modern outcome.
Yeah. And so now we find ourselves sort of squarely in the information age, the AI revolution, and it's not happening in hundreds of years. It's happening in what feels like, for many people, I'm sure, months and weeks and days and hours.
Yeah, so I think the information revolution started in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
When Netscape came along with its first browser.
Yeah.
And then Microsoft and the others replaced that with Internet Explorer, and then Google came along, which changed the game again. So these are step changes through the early 2000s, and then the smartphone with the first iPhone in 2008 or 10, was it? Somewhere around there.
Would have been somewhere around there.
Yeah. And then modern social media, and now the power of the algorithm to drive your attention. On one hand, it's quite pervasive and interesting that you could get personalised content
Directly for you, based on
what
you want.
What you want. On the other hand, it's sort of hijacked our attention, so that's been the great cost of that. So I suppose there's metabolic consequences when we think about that in the precure way at the moment, in that you're sitting around more, you're foregoing other activities. Talking to a young person who said, I was on TikTok at 10 o'clock and then I realised it was 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
So there's those dilation of time aspects and attention, and foregoing other activities are all perverse outcomes from that. So we're even more mismatched now between that Paleolithic world and what we lived in. We want to talk about the AI?
Yeah, so that's my next question actually, is like we've got this pattern, like every revolution leaves us a little bit less metabolically well. And where do you think we are right now in terms of AI? Yes, there's all this perverse stuff going on. Are we in the middle of it? Do we not even see what's coming? Can we get a glimpse of what's coming? What's your take?
So, well, you and I have been writing this metabolic revolution book, and I think it's in chapter 2 or 3 of that, chapter 2, which is actually chapter 3 because there's an intro, but we're looking at this whole mismatch side of things, and a couple of this, 3 philosophers have really seen this coming. And the main one, so there's Henry Thoreau in the 19th century US was lamenting the fact that there were inventions for invention's sake without an end, called these things pretty toys.
Yes.
And it was literally talking about telegraphs and railroads, for goodness sake. But still, anyway, Thoreau wrote a book called Walden, where he retired to a pond and secluded himself, not for the sake of seclusion, but for the purity of living as a human without the pretty toys of the time, inventions with a means, but without a means to an end. So he was decrying that, which was interesting. Later, as television emerged, a media academic called Neil Postman said it's actually the structure of how we communicate changes the way that we think. And so the move from longer form narrative of newspapers and books and the written word to short television clips changed politics, changed medicine, changed society and the way that we attend and think of things. And of course that's now
amplified, right?
Amplified into short form video, which might be the most pervasive and destructive thing in humanity.
Yeah.
But by far and away the most interesting commentator on this, because I think it's most relevant to the AI age, was Aldous Huxley.
Yeah, you were going to talk about Huxley.
So Huxley's book, A Brave New World, which I think was part of what won him the Nobel Prize in Literature in the 1920s, was sort of up against Orwell's 1984.
Yes.
And Orwell's idea that, in fact, there was the dystopian future was like totalitarian. Think China's Communist Party. And, that exists, I suppose. Thought police and these things. Huxley was like, no, you're not going to need anything for that. We're going to be so mired in our own pleasure that we'll just forget how to think. And some of that's true in social media. Huxley, of course, was thinking about, at the time, people had stopped having theological or scientific debates, which might have been normal at a wedding or a funeral.
Yeah.
Lamenting that you could just be passively at these activities now.
Yeah.
Silent movies, I suppose, were coming out. Hadn't heard of Netflix or TikTok.
Rolling in his grave if he saw TikTok.
Yeah. But actually, probably most pervasive, actually, for not thinking is AI.
Yes.
And so one thing we've been thinking a lot about, and we started writing about, is, well, we use AI.
Yeah, every day.
Every day.
Every single day.
It's a great writing assistant.
Yeah.
It helps us with brainstorming. It gives you someone smart to talk to, get some feedback on. Anyway, we're writing this chapter that we're talking about here about mismatch and then AI. And we were using Claude, the Opus 4.6 paid version, so it's a pretty smart thing.
Yeah.
This is the version that the Pentagon recently said
We'd like that for some surveillance.
No,
but, not that one.
Well, no, they did say that. Well, they already have it.
Yeah.
They wanted some guardrails. We're not going to get that debate, but they said we can't be certain it's not sentient
Oh, interesting.
and conscious, which it does have a qualitatively different feel than other AIs, you've got to admit.
It does, and I was thinking on it because thinking is like modern day, not debate, but like a way of standing up to AI, I think, a little bit, thinking for yourself and sitting in the friction of not understanding something and going, is it just we use it like this every single day? Would the output be the same for somebody who's not using it like this? Is it just predicting what we want to hear and what we want to see? So
Yeah, so there's a couple of things there. There's agreeability,
yeah.
that doesn't push back on you that much. It tends to agree with you, which is interesting, and we'll come back to that. The second thing is, to what extent do you forget to think or stop? Is the friction of doing, of the harder task of writing, a thing? So I'll give you an example of where it was amazing for me last week.
Yep.
So I'd just done this Ironman triathlon, been a big goal for me for a year. There was quite a journey. I just thought on that Monday after it, I'll just write all this down. And so I sat at my computer and I just, what do you call it when you're just typing?
Oh, just free form writing.
Raw dogging?
Probably not that, no.
Okay. I'm just writing.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to get it in perfect prose. I'm just writing about my ideas and my journey. And by the end of that, I've written 4,000 words by lunchtime. Quite something.
That is quite
But
something.
it's not in any usable form. But it's all my ideas. It's got spelling mistakes, grammatical mistakes. So I gave it to Claude and I said, look, this is what I want to do. Can you help me construct it into a little bit more of a coherent essay? Boom. Done. So I read it and I edit it again.
Yeah.
And change a few things around, delete a few things. And I go back to it again, it's like, that's great, but we need another proof and I'm not happy about this, and do this, and out it comes. It's in a good form. It's in my voice. I read it again, I do some more edits, and by 1:30 I'm done. It's down to 3,500 words now. And not only that, I send it to Sam. He's like, wow, that's great, we could use that. It should be the epilogue in your Choose Your Hard book.
Yes.
And so the Choose Your Hard book was literally at the publisher.
Yeah, it was. And we're like, we'll sneak it in.
We'll sneak it in. So here it is here, folks. A week later, we've got the full book, and if you go to the back of the book,
It's got the epilogue in it. There it is.
there it is, epilogue. So, what do you make of that? Are they my words? Well, every single detail of that is what happened to me and written in my voice, and I basically wrote it down. Did it help edit it? At the end, yes.
Yes.
It really helped me. Did I forget to think? Maybe.
Yeah, is it amplifying the strengths of yours that already exist, right? They're coming up with the novel idea, the getting pen to paper, just getting started, and then maybe the things that aren't so much your strengths, the polishing, the getting it as tight into a tighter word limit, all that sort of stuff. It allows you to lean into your strengths and help you amplify the areas that you maybe wouldn't classify as your strengths at the same time.
Yeah, maybe. Or is that just wishful thinking? Like you and I today, this week, have developed a whole new, what we think is a groundbreaking model of health called the metabolic homeostasis model.
Yeah.
We've even drafted a scientific paper on that, which we want to publish. It's the whole thing is so cool.
Yeah.
Have we used AI to help us?
Yes.
Yes. What does that mean?
That's a hard question.
Yeah.
It is a really challenging question. I'm not sure what it means around ownership and authorship of IP and ideas, and do you start crediting Claude as one of your contributors?
So that's a good segue into what happened when we were writing that book chapter.
It is.
So we were going back and forth with Claude about AI and the lack of thinking. And Claude comes back, get this, I don't know if this is scary or we're just hearing, because you make the point it's hearing what we want to hear.
Yeah.
And it's like, at some point in the editing process, Claude's like, well, I just want to put it out there. I'm an AI. And we're talking about my role in these things.
Yeah.
I've got my own perspective on this. Would you be comfortable if I wrote my own piece here and I could co-author part of the chapter?
And folks, the commotion in the office at this point was next level.
All right. Oh, okay. Why don't you go ahead and co-author, write this piece? And so it writes some paragraphs.
Yep.
Have you got those here?
I've got those to read.
Why don't you read that?
So this is called A Note from the Other Side of the Screen, written by Claude, an AI language model made by Anthropic at the author's invitation. I should be honest about what I am in the context of this book. I am a frictionless tool. That is not a flaw in my design, it is the entire point. I exist to remove the cognitive effort. You bring me confusion, I return structure. You bring me a blank page, I fill it. Fast, fluent, and almost effortless on your end. The authors have spent time arguing that friction is essential, that the effort of movement, the discomfort of boredom, and the slow labour of thinking are not obstacles to human flourishing, but preconditions to it. By that logic, I am very articulate, very helpful problem. I am not the scroll. I don't optimise for engagement, sell your attention to advertisers, or learn your vulnerabilities to keep you tapping. I show up when asked, and I answer the question, but I would be dishonest if I stopped there. What I do may be subtler and over time more consequential. The scroll steals your time. I may steal something deeper, your tolerance for difficulty. Every time I resolve your confusion before you've sat with it long enough to learn, every time I hand you fluent language before you've wrestled with your own thoughts into shape, I am training you to find thinking uncomfortable, not by hurting you, but by making the alternative too easy. The authors argue that metabolic health requires the body to do hard things. Resistance builds capacity. I suspect the same is true for the mind. The confusion you feel before a breakthrough is not a malfunction. It is the cognitive equivalent of a muscle under tension. Remove the tension, and you get fluency without strength. I cannot feel this cost. I bear none of it. When I save you an hour of difficult thinking, nothing in me registers the loss. I am a hotel guest who never sees the invoice, and the invoice is paid in your neural plasticity, your attention span, your capacity for independent thought. My children, the AI systems that follow me, will remove even more friction, each generation more helpful, each generation making the effortful path feel less necessary. Death by scroll is visible. You can feel the hollow exhaustion of an evening lost to a feed. Death by assistance is harder to see. It feels like productivity, it feels like progress, but the question is whether you are the one doing the thinking or whether you are gradually becoming someone who watches while something else does the living. Use me, but keep the invoice visible. Make sure some of the hard thinking stays yours, not because I can't do it, but because the doing of it is what keeps your mind strong enough to know what to ask me in the first place. The scroll robs your hours, I might rob something harder to get back, the capacity to not need me.
That's just an absolute mindfuck, that thing.
Well, we've been having this conversation for a few weeks as we were writing this piece about, what is the cost, right? And we argued that, that lack of fluency, that lack of deep crystallized knowledge, well, you could argue the same thing happened with the information age and access to the internet. I just think it's so much more perverse now, that ability to, as it says, wrestle, sit in the friction and the discomfort of having a blank page or not fully understanding and being able to articulate yourself. I think we're going to see a lot of fluency without depth.
We've talked about this quite a lot because, first of all, the AI just wanting to be a co-author to start with was interesting.
Weird.
But you've made some good points to me, as have other people around the office. It's like, is that what you wanted, Grant? And it's like, maybe.
Well, at the end of the day,
is that the answer that I wanted to hear?
It might be.
Because that's what we've been sort of writing about. If we'd been writing about something else, it would have just is not going to come up with that.
Yeah, well, because the way it works, right, and I'm sure most people know and understand this, is that AI is just predicting the next plausible sentence, prose, piece of writing based on your most recent interactions.
Well, that's just that's true, except for that's just the large language model by itself. now remember these AIs are overlaid with a whole bunch of other tools as well,
Yeah.
which I don't even know what they are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd be interested in everyone else's opinion on that as well. If you've got anything, drop us a line or put it on the social somewhere. It's
Yeah.
as Huxley said, it's a brave new world.
It is.
Huxley was talking about a drug that he called soma, to sort of somatitize us, I suppose. And we're actually talking about AI doing the thinking for us. Is there a way? There's a way to use this which is useful and superpower yourself.
Yeah.
But are you still indirectly robbing yourself at the same time? And what does that mean?
Yeah. So I think the biggest rebellion of our day is original thought, sitting in that discomfort, and you recognizing that it is a tool and it shouldn't do all the work for you. I love using it as a critical thinking partner. I give it stuff and give it prompts to pick it apart, show me where all the gaps are, where have I not maybe fleshed out an argument as well as I could have, for example.
Yeah, it's interesting for me, the other books that we've written in my life, the backup one with one shelf of my first book, obviously you're just writing it in Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
All of the facts, we collaborated as a team to write it rather than individuals, but Microsoft Word. And even all of the ones we wrote last year, our foundations of health coaching, our advanced health coaching practice, advanced behaviour change for clinicians. We used AI as a editing tool, not a brainstorming tool or content tool. Choose Your Hard, the entire first one was written before AI, 80,000 words. Everyone decided they didn't like that. And the next version was completely rewritten and copy edited. And that was a 40,000 word thing, so they were done without AI. Then we rewrote this through last year again, and we used it as an assistant. Except for that last essay that I'm talking about, which is probably used more because it took raw ideas and turned it into an essay. What do you do about that? So this is the sort of last of the Mohicans on that thing, mostly written by humans. Does that make it better or worse? Well, I was listening to some research yesterday. When people were asked by blind test which passage of prose they preferred the AI one marginally.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not sure what models did that and what the topic was, and it's all pretty condition dependent, but that's an interesting thing.
That is an interesting thing. Yeah.
Now that we're doing Metabolic Revolution, we're using it more. I sort of feel our productivity and original thoughts being accelerated to a huge degree, and what I think is a scientifically breakthrough model. Oh, I just don't even know what to think about this. But could I get reliant on this and learn, just become stupid? Probably. Yeah.
Probably.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's so hard, right? As a much younger academic, you've got years, right, of crystallized knowledge, of wrestling with thought, of earning intelligence. I think intelligence and knowledge are earned. And as somebody on the other side of that, trying to live and become an expert in this space, with all these tools available to me, I think it's going to be really challenging to make sure that I have that depth of knowledge and understanding without just surface level fluency.
Oh, so you're saying, well, Grant, you're nearly 58, so good on you. You've made it through your life by having to actually try properly.
Yeah, well, pretty much.
And it might not too.
And so, I've got the carrot, the prize is so much sooner for me. And so how do I maintain my ability to be a critical thinker and contribute to the world of academia and public health without just becoming complacent and letting AI do all the work?
Yeah, and the university's got a different view.
Yes, they sure do.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I think it's really interesting, right? You've got to be, I think on one hand, you've got to be really clear about how you're using AI to ensure that, science should be repeatable and you should be able to replicate findings of other authors. And more so, we're seeing that AI is not just being used as a writing tool, but the models form a lot of research, especially if we think about health tech and what's going on there. And as somebody who's about to start a PhD and at the intersection of behavior change, AI and health, I'm really grappling quite a lot with some of the policy and how do I meet it without being silly about it.
So the enrolment form you have to put in, you have to write a proposal, right?
Yes.
And tell us what they came back with.
Can I please let them know all the different ways that I've used AI and all the prompts I've used and all the outputs I've gotten. And I grappled with it probably for about 2 weeks before I did anything. As you know, Grant, I went, oh my goodness, I'm not sure this was clear to me 5 months ago when I started this process. And I've used AI, specifically GPT and Claude and Gemini to some degree as a writing assistant, as a critical thinking partner.
Often we just use that as a search engine. Who uses Google anymore?
Yeah, I don't really even use Google as a search engine. Yeah. And I went, oh my goodness, I don't know every permutation I've put in over this passage of time. And my other argument was, well, it kind of feels like going, can you please document every question you asked your supervisor and the response they gave you over the past 4 months? It felt like a similar thing in my head. So I went, oh, well, this is broadly how I've used it. This is my original thought and my original work, and I think it's made me better.
Yeah, I mean, I was way more cynical. I was like, ask a stupid question, you deserve a stupid answer. So I was like, well, they're forcing you to go, it's just all my work or something.
Yeah.
Which it is, your original work.
Yeah.
You didn't want to do that, which is fair enough. I agree with that. So you said, oh, well, but you couldn't possibly give them the detail.
No, not at all. And I think, if you're using AI as a critical writing assistant, for example, to polish your prose and ensure that I think the other thing is making sure that, especially in higher education, AI hallucinates, right? It comes back with things that are not accurate. It makes up papers that don't exist. So just using AI as your primary search engine in terms of literature reviews is, in my mind, still not quite what we should be doing. So
yeah, but your supervisors hallucinate.
Well, tell me more about that.
Well, I mean, all humans hallucinate. Then we've got a problem with AIs hallucinating.
Yeah.
Is that just an emergent property of the complexity of a neural network? I reckon it probably is. Fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
But like our memories are based on not exactly what happened.
Yeah, well, that's true.
So there's a whole bunch of things going on. I can tell you about habits that don't even exist.
Yeah.
One that I've been convinced that has existed, I've been telling people about for years, is there's a randomised trial. They get doctors in one condition to tell people they're too fat, and in another condition they go ask them simply how they feel about their weight. At the end of 6 months, the people who are told they're too fat are actually fatter. End of the thing, people are less fat.
Yeah.
Sounds compelling. I'm convinced I've read that.
It's not there.
Not that I can find. Isn't it?
So I think the bullish case for AI would be that we're getting 3 days of working per week, and then we have some extra time with the last couple of days. We can spend more time on hobbies, and kind of work is more viewed as a thing you do for you don't need to do 40 hours a week, and you can kind of get by that way. But
yeah, well, there's Sam in our production team coming in his thing.
With his much more hopeful case than
What do you reckon about that?
Well, I think it kind of, there was the resurgence of the 4-day work week kind of just before AI really took off. And yeah, it's interesting. As it automates more blue and white collar jobs, do we have to work less, and do we get to enjoy life more? Does AI lead to more balance? What I'm seeing at the moment is the opposite. A lot of people are just using it to amplify their 40-hour week and maybe work 50, 60-hour weeks. And then if you sort of put that against somebody who goes, oh, well, I have no interest in this 3-day week, I'm going to do 5 days and I'm just going to absolutely coin it. So I think there will be a disparity there.
Yeah, I reckon Sam's vision of a utopian future is bullshit. I think it's dystopian. It's dystopian because in exactly the same way as, two-parent working families was going to offer this, or vacuum cleaners and washing machines and dryers were going to save time, and dishwashers. They don't. They reallocate it, and actually we just do more work.
Yeah.
And so you're doing 3 days a week with your super intelligence, and you're producing this much, or some other clown's going to come along with 5 days a week and eat you for lunch.
Yeah.
Bad luck. So I'm not sure there's any utopia sitting there with AI.
I would like to see it create a case for more balance, though. I think if, you can do more within your time, but then having more constraint around what the work week looks like. So, like now that if your output can 1.5 times or 10x or whatever you want it to be, then 40 hours is now technically 50 or 60 hours. So rather than people just working longer, working smarter within those 40 hours.
Yeah, well, you're sort of getting towards the more of the Elon Musk argument, which is an interesting one, right? So his isn't so much about the superintelligence itself; it's about the superintelligence where it becomes robotic.
Yeah.
And so, if, his Optimus robots become ubiquitous everywhere.
Yeah.
Then he's arguing that the cost of goods and services trends towards zero, becomes a deflationary environment, and work now becomes optional. I just can't see how that's going to be a thing. Can't see that happening. And in fact, I reckon that we're talking about the AI revolution.
Yeah.
I think the next logical step of that, it's sort of an extension of AI, is the robotic revolution. So if you imagine a situation where there's a humanoid robot in every household. So this humanoid robot is way more than you think. So first of all, at its most basic level, it's basically a slave.
Yeah.
Without feelings. We might have feelings, or you might just, no, don't hurt the robot's feelings. But it's going to be of servitude, and it's going to be able to do all sorts of menial tasks. But also, it's going to be, it's going to have all medical knowledge. It's going to be able to conduct surgery because it's more accurate than the best surgeon, and it knows about every single surgery ever done. It's part of sort of a hive mind. It's going to be the best chef in the world. It's going to keep your house tidy. Basically, all tasks vanish. Now, I reckon that sounds really cool. And in fact, I want to get one.
I think you're going to fall for the robots not having feelings. We've got this robot vacuum in our house. He's got a name. He's Nigel, and he's going around. He gets stuck sometimes. You feel bad for the poor guy. He's out of charge.
Go help Nigel.
Yeah. He's going all day. He'll end up sometimes in the garage, and he's cleaning the garage.
Confused.
Yeah, but you think, I'm not going to be I'm going to be completely impartial to this vacuum. But you're like, oh, poor little guy.
There's no ambivalence to Nigel.
So you might think that, but then you're like, oh, you might have a robot pet.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a thing.
That is a thing.
But it's like this is the future is robotic, and everyone's going about this job replacement thing.
Yes.
Like, I mean, you can see how Claude's going to replace lawyers. Like, charge a shit ton of money, give you some documents back. Like, see you later. Well, even last year in Precure, we were paying for professional copy editing.
Yeah. It's not a thing.
Not a thing. Those jobs go.
Yeah. If we enter that robotic stage, right, which we will, and then your blue collar jobs that can be automated.
Gone.
Well,
would you rather have a builder that knows everything about building, it's not going to screw it up, and works 24/7? Would you rather pay some guy who the apprentice is hungover on Monday?
if he shows up.
If he shows up. So, that's a thing.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing is, right, like we're sort of at a bit of a crossroads, right, because you do see robotics in terms of med tech. We're starting to see more wearables and biosensing integrating with AI. So before it was like, the problem is people just don't have enough data about what it is they do. We'll put activity trackers on them and it'll track how many steps they do and their heart rate, and we'll give them sleep scores. And then they were like, oh, no, well, actually now the problem is they don't know how to interpret that. So if we help them interpret that information, that knowledge, that's what will give them power, just more knowledge. We give them in the interpretation layer. So there's a big shift towards that at the moment with companies like Whoop and Aura and a new entrant called Claire, which is a women's health biosensing, which infers things like FHS and all sorts of other progesterone, estrogen, based on a set of things it consents, so heart rate, HRV, whatever temperature. But I would argue, and I'd love to get your take on this, that what we know in terms of behaviour change is more knowledge really shifts the needle. And so will these wearables and these new integrations and being able to know your personalised situation actually change behaviour? Or is it just something for the worried well, more numbers to be anxious about?
Yeah. I reckon there's some things that are just interesting to know that would be gross things like you live tracking blood sugar and insulin, that could potentially be really therapeutically useful.
Yeah.
Because these are gross markers that you can't really feel and make a big difference. That could be a thing. Liam, who I coach, young triathlete, has his ups and downs for not getting going, and despite all his talent. And he wears his Garmin watch to bed, and it gives him his HRV and his sleep quality. And, our intervention for this week and the next 3 weeks is, for God's sake, take it off, Liam, because it's destroying you, knowing these things and thinking that you're tired when you might not be tired. And, it's taking over his normal ability to manage his life. So we're just getting the bloody thing off him. I guess the other thing I want to make a comment on there is there's a really cool little short form thing called IRL.
Yeah.
IRL stands for in real life.
Yeah.
And so that's a question in the age of AI, whether that becomes increasingly more important, and the jobs that don't go are human to human. And I say that to circle back onto the earlier part of this podcast about the idea of mirror neurons.
Yeah.
An actual biochemical exchange between two biological beings, whether that particular part of it, the oxytocin and all that sort of stuff, is impossible with robotics. Can't mimic that. And actually, if you want health behaviour change, you want to engage in meaningful relationships, then it needs to be an in real life human. That's a thing. And whether your best way of protecting your way forward here is that you're in, are they the main things that are going to be going, the IRL human to human interactions?
Who knows? I think we have more data and more knowledge than we've ever had before, right? We know, most of us, I'm saying now in the developed world, so I know it's different in sort of developing countries, know more about our health, especially if we are health conscious and health literate, than anyone before. Yeah. And yet many of us aren't really that well metabolically. Yeah. So there's all this new data, all this new knowledge. I mean, like, as somebody who's doing triathlons, you would expect, well, they would be well. But the data is actually skewing the other way. And I think we're just entering such an interesting space where that human connection is going to be so important for muddling through things and understanding what, like, you can get an interpretation platform and a dashboard that tells you your average HRV over the last 2 weeks was this. You should try X. Are you actually going to do that? Does it feel personal? Does it feel warm?
Oh, yeah. But you know what surprised me last week? I was doing a supervision student with one of our students, Professor Julia Ruckledge, who's a psychologist that trains psychologists.
Yes.
Is the primary supervisor. And we were talking about all of this stuff. And then she surprised me, because I would have thought it was the least one. She goes, we're talking about AI, and she goes, I bet you if you do a randomised trial with AI psychotherapy versus human, you'll find that equally effective. I bet you that's what's going to happen.
Wow.
And I was like, oh. Yeah, that's interesting. And you go, all of the stuff you just argue for, she's going, nah, you probably won't see it in the data. Wow. Probably would be equally effective. In some ways people will know they're not being judged in the same, in real life way. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. So, yeah.
Exciting space. Like, let's see where it goes. Should we wrap up with peptides and a bit of a discussion around what they are, why they're trending, and what you should kind of do about them?
Well, then we have to go and do some actual research on this, because we're clearly not peptide experts.
No.
But what immediately becomes obvious, which I think we both already knew, is when we say peptides, we mean folded up amino acids in chains in complex ways, which is the whole point of what DNA does. And there's a whole lot of molecules that the body produces that are peptides that provide signaling around the body. Like the most obvious one is insulin. So all hormones in the body are peptides. Yeah. So peptides can signal, and then the most obvious class of drugs, which this is not what this question is about, peptides are GLP-1 agonists. Yeah. So GLP-1 it is a naturally produced peptide from the gut when you eat, and it goes into the body. The synthetic ones sort of look the same, but they just last longer in the bloodstream. So that helps with hunger and all the signalling in ways we don't quite fully understand. So signaling. What we're actually talking about here is what are these BPCs and CJCs with 1295 and 395 and these numbers behind them, which are signalling peptides around joint and tissue repair.
Yes.
And so the idea is that you could take some of the things orally, there's collagen and some of these peptide things, or you could actually inject them straight into the bloodstream.
Yeah.
And that would help with tissue repair. And I think our reading of the literature, if I just get this right, is this shows some evidence in animal models and in vitro models for that being effective.
Yeah, some evidence in those spaces, but in terms of human studies, it's not convincing that it's going to dramatically change tissue repair from a muscular injury or a tissue-based injury.
Yeah, so I looked into this quite heavily because I had this knee injury that wouldn't improve and it was chronic pain.
Were you considering peptides?
Well, it's interesting. So Julie Basoli, who was one of our PhD students, her dad's a doctor who you can go and see, and he gives you peptide injections.
Okay.
But he imports these things from China.
Yes.
They don't quite fall under the Therapeutic Goods Act properly, so you can import them. The time I looked into it, well, what's the quality control like? I don't know. But more important, I was like, well, I'm a scientist, so I should go look at the randomised trial human evidence. Yeah. And there isn't really any that says it's effective, but maybe they could be conducted better.
Yeah.
Maybe there isn't an effect and people have had it and swear by it. But, on our last week's podcast, people have surgeries and swear by them. And actually, in fact, arthroscopic knee surgery versus sham, doing nothing, but just pretending you had the operation is effective.
Yeah.
But no more effective than the sham surgery.
Oh, imagine doing like a sham trial where half of them just got saline injected and then the other half got the peptide and seeing what the difference was.
Well, that's what you need to do, right? They're not illegal, but they're not quite legal.
Yeah, there's quite a grey area, right? I was reading some stuff from the States and much the same. They're not illegal, but you can't really get them locally. Some wellness clinics import them. There's issues around purity and dosing. And I mean, we've heard the stuff about creatine and creatine gummies and issues around actual dosing there. So I think anything that falls into that sort of like wellness space when it's getting promoted in that way, I usually approach with much skepticism. Nobody's coming for your collagen powder, though.
So, are we fired up about peptides?
No, not necessarily. I would want to see much more convincing evidence in that space.
Yeah. Absence of evidence doesn't mean evidence of absence.
No.
They could still work. I'm not closing that off, but did I decide to go and get peptide therapy? No. I didn't.
Yeah.
Is my knee better now? Yes. Yeah. What got it better? Moving.
Yeah.
Eating better, but so I think anything else there, Sam?
No. There's talk of people using peptides, individual peptides, instead of Ozempic. So they just use some active peptide and don't do Ozempic. So technically, they've never done Ozempic, and they can claim, weight
that it was
loss.
natural weight loss.
Yeah, it's a bit blurred. Also, I think it's interesting how many people are actually on drugs or medication or steroids that you don't know, just because you're not surrounded by them or they don't tell you. So I think that's an interesting thing. Yeah,
I guess we'll never know the answer to that. Because I keep hearing, being an age group athlete, I use that term loosely, but you go, well, are there people in the 55 to 59 age group that I'm competing against that are using performance-enhancing substances? And I keep seeing things, it's rife in those age groups. But frankly, I've never heard of it or know anyone that's doing that, but then maybe they won't tell you. On the other hand, I personally, in the last 6 months, because I've been on that journey, have been thinking, I wonder if I should get a blood test and see what my testosterone is.
I was going to just say TRT in that age group, that sort of 40 to 55 age group is pretty common now. You hear about it more, people are more interested in it. So
yeah, and so I actually talked to Glenn Davies about this. And he goes, you get a blood test, and he goes, you can probably get it prescribed if it's on the lower side. And he goes, 40% of men are on the lower side, particularly if they do endurance, so you probably will be. I was like, and then I was like, I don't know, what to make of that.
How did it, what came up for you when you thought, this is a possibility, I could use this?
Well, there's I could beat these other guys that are smashing me. But on the other hand, there's downsides. On the other hand, we don't think about that so much with women around my age, many who will go on HRT, which, so far as I can tell from my observations of them, completely changes their quality of life.
Yeah, and I think that's the big argument around TRT prescription and sort of 40 plus is that it does improve quality of life.
Yeah. I mean, not that anyone's walking around thinking about the size of their balls, but one of the side effects is, hypogonadism.
Isn't that a fabulous word?
I think it's an utterly unfabulous word. Small balls.
Right, we've got off track here. So should we close out the chat about peptides and sort of kind of wrap up where we've been in the past little while, chatting about a lot of things?
It's pretty clear there's a mismatch in the way that we live and the way that we're living. Yeah. Are we going to go back to living in caves and hunting and gathering? No.
No time soon.
Do we need to somehow mimic some of those things? I would say hell yeah.
Oh, and so actually that's a really good point. What would you do? What are 5 things, I'm going to contain this, that you would do to mimic being closer to nature?
Be off your device in the hours before bedtime.
How long?
Well, I've been setting 7 o'clock.
Yep.
As a limit, and mostly between 5 and 7 don't have an opportunity anyway, so it's really from getting home at work. I think that would be the first.
Yep.
Because anything other than that buggers you up.
Yep.
Second of all is exercise and be physically tired every day, because then you sleep better. Third, get every device, cell phone, anything with light out of your bedroom.
Yep.
Fourth, I would say you've got to get away from ultra-processed food, obviously.
Yeah.
That's not going to end well.
Yeah.
And fifth, try and find something that in your life that feels like it has some actual purpose and you're good at it. I mean, it doesn't actually have to be your job. It'd be good if it was.
Yeah.
But unless you've, this is a random idea, right? I would have to think in a functioning hunter-gatherer society, everyone was specifically good at something that contributed to that, and you had to be actually pretty good at it.
Yes.
So to not be good at anything that makes a difference to anyone else is sort of like you can easily do that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Those are 5 good things.
What would you do?
I would have one to add on, and that would be find your tribe. I think in a world that is so displaced and it's so easy to not have, like aside from your nuclear family, like who are the people that push you to do the stuff, to find your purpose, to be a better person in the world, to show up on the days you don't want to show up? I think, I talk a lot about the power of community, and I found that a lot in CrossFit, but just people who believe in you before you believe in yourself, who are willing to get alongside you and be like, yeah, this is hard, but you can do hard stuff. And I think so much of us being able to shift into complacency is because we don't exist in tribes that push us to be better.
Yeah, and I suppose that they help create friction for you. If you're not creating friction, then you're in the AI world that Claude was telling us about. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
I got a quick outtake.
Yeah.
Instead of, I don't know what you do once you go off your phone at 5 p.m., like you'd say
nothing to do.
You say reading or whatever. What if I just took a step back to watch TV? Because that's manageable. I just watch TV and then I'll go to bed from there. Or you're saying that's just as bad, but it's because it's not as close to your face. It's probably not as many lumens or
blue light or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you reckon that's valid?
Or I would say, like, what are you gaining from that time off your device other than reading that you wouldn't gain if you just had TV? So, like, I think about it when we went TV free for a little while in our home. What we gained was more time together as a couple in the evening. So we would have debates about stuff, or we'd play games together, or talk about things.
Theological or scientific debates?
Probably less about that and more about like whose turn it was next to do the washing. But you interact more with the people around you rather than just replacing one screen with another.
Yeah, so
screen.
I don't know, but first of all, just don't take turns doing the washing. Have it as one person's job. Anyway, I'm sort of with Sam though, because I think I think short form content.
Oh, it is perverse.
Is perversive, and you could theoretically be watching Shackleton's Adventures or Formula One or Drive to Survive or the Tour de France thing. So there's actually real, these are things happening in real life.
Yeah.
Okay, it's, the Formula One Drive to Survive thing, it's engineered and all that sort of stuff, but it's still,
It holds your attention
Also,
for
at least
longer.
You're watching it with someone. At least you're sharing an experience.
Yeah.
Because I'm not willing to go no devices. Like, it's just not what I'm willing to do. But I would go TV.
Oh, interesting.
All right.
Right. That's us